Hello, everybody, and welcome to Exorcise Your Rights. Today, we are talking mentorship, and with me, I have Harold Hall, all the way from Maine. After graduating from the University of Maine, he worked at a homeless shelter for a decade before becoming a patient advocate. So I'm going to say he had to be patient to do the homeless shelter, and then he became a patient advocate at a hospital. Last year, he was a mentee in the HWA Mentorship Program, which he claims that he enjoyed immensely. We're going to find out here in a few minutes. And in that mentorship program, he completed or nearly completed his debut novel. So we're going to find out all about that. Welcome, Harold, to Exercise Your Rights.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to think about that name for just a second because we're so like everything is swapped over because now we're on the HWA channel. So very cool to have you over here. And it's a perfect topic because what we're talking about is the HWA Mentorship Program. So
yes.
Going on that, I know that the book, which I will from the beginning say, I was your mentee or mentor. I always get those two confused. So that's out of the way. I know that you were working on books before you became involved with the mentorship program. What was that experience like? And then how do you feel like the mentorship program? I feel like I'm giving you leading questions. Like, how good was the mentorship program, Harold? You can't say anything else. But no, feel free to say whatever your opinion is. I happen to be a huge fan of the mentorship program. So just, what was it like before the mentorship program as to when you started the mentorship program?
Okay, so I've been writing for quite a while, but I was a bad writer for a long time, self-admitted.
I think we all start out that way.
Wrote a lot of bad short stories that promptly got rejected, and this isn't what I'm working on right now isn't my first novel. I've written a couple of others, but it kind of slowly progressed from being, oh God, I can't even show this. This needs to go in the drawer somewhere, to, okay, this is better. And this project that I'm working on now, I feel proud of it, which is, not something that has happened every time. And it has definitely, the mentorship program has definitely made the book better, just by working with you. And so the mentorship program has been great for me. I had heard about the program, and I was interested because I'm always trying to kind of improve. And when I signed up, I ended up on the wait list. I was kind of late. I was late. So I was on the wait list I missed the first, first period that I was eligible for. And then got it on the second round, and and then we started working together, and it was great.
Awesome. Yeah, which I will say, I agree with you. The book is awesome that you're working on. Can I reveal the title? I don't know if that's yours. Okay, Underside. By the time anybody's watching this, I really hope that Underside is available to more people. I know it's probably not going to be that fast because publishing takes a while, but I just want to say right now, this is a really good story. I'm very enthusiastic about the story, not because of our relationship working on it, but because it's truly a good story. I think a lot of that is because you don't want to be like, everybody's the same, but I really feel like you started your writing career, not just the mentorship program, with the perfect attitude of like, oh, I need to work on this, because none of us pop out of the womb and are amazing, beautiful writers. You have to work on it. You have a lot of crappy stories. That's what you came to this with. So like you've honed your craft instead of letting it stay in that beginning phase. Most important thing about being a writer. That wasn't easy though, right? I mean, how did you come to that? Because it's like the ego, and like, what advice would you give, I guess?
So I had spent a long time, basically most of my 20s, I had spent writing really bad short stories, sending them out to editors, getting rejected, and then shaking my fist in the air, being angry about it. And so somewhere along the line, I kind of, I don't know, I had a little bit more of more self-awareness. I don't know, maybe I grew up a little bit. Uh, and I realized that I needed, if people were rejecting my work, there was probably an issue with it. And so I kind of started uh, taking more of an analytical view of, well, okay, what are the reasons why it was rejected? What can I improve? So I just started trying to not assume that everything I was writing was perfect and allow for that. I was open to criticism, whereas before I was really closed off and defensive, which I think every writer kind of starts that way.
Mhm.
And it really wasn't until I was open to hearing what was wrong and kind of improving that I started making some gains in terms of my writing ability. And so by the time I came into the mentorship program, I had kind of gotten over myself a little bit, and I was willing to hear criticism, good things, bad things. I was open to everything, and trying to really focus on making the story the best that I could in whatever way that needed to happen. So
Well, I will say you did a good job. That was one of the things I think shortly into working with you, because it was your first novel is how you were talking about it. And I think after about a month, I was like, this is not your first novel. Like, you don't start out like this. This is really good, and polished and tight. And so that made a lot of sense when you said that, like you've had other work that you had been um, honing your skills on, whetting that axe, which I guess is why Stephen King has that, what is it, write with the door closed, letting your imagination kind of go free, but then edit with the door open as if everybody is watching you. Because ultimately writing is communication. And if we can't communicate our story, there's kind of no point to it. So
yeah, and there's things that you just don't catch yourself, no matter how much you're paying attention, no matter what you think. It's always good to have a second eye on your work. So
yeah, absolutely. Which is no matter what, that's why you can't edit yourself, because we know what we're trying to say. We just have to make sure everybody else does too.
Yep.
I want to address a little bit, because you said that it took you like the second time around to get in the mentorship program. Mm-hmm. And from this side of it, I know we never have enough mentors. And I think one reason why is people feel like they have to be an expert to mentor. And the truth is, we're all an expert at something. What would you say to address that? I mean, what would you say to encourage people to mentor from your experience as a mentee?
Well, I think that if you have something to offer, then it's definitely worth it. I think. I mean, I'm not a mentor, so I can't quite speak as authoritatively, I guess. But I would encourage, if anyone's interested in being a mentor, or if they feel like they have something to offer, I would encourage them, because it's a lot of fun. Or at least my experience was. I don't know.
I had
don't
fun.
want to speak for the mentors. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what their experiences are, but I think it definitely you're helping fledgling writers, and I think that's worth something for sure.
Yeah, I think your being open, though, is what kind of made the relationship so easy and so effective with us. So I'm going to say, like, coming into mentorship as a mentee, that's super important, because I've had it the other way too, and I've been that way, where you're like, no, it's perfect. What are you talking about? I've been that person. So I think that on you was a key reason why this program has been so successful.
Thank you.
Do you, having gone through the mentorship program, and this is not like you don't have to sign anything, what do you think in the future? Do you think you might be a mentor at some point?
I would be open to it. I mean,
he's like, dang it, she's cornered me. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone would want me as their mentor necessarily, but I mean, I would definitely be down the line. I would be open.
I can't see that at all, because when this book comes out, you're going to have a line of people asking you to mentor them. I'm just going to say that. This book is so complex. And actually, I do want to talk about Underside. And of course, this is your book, so only share what you want to share. You're going to go, I think you said what are your plans for it? Like, how do you plan to approach publishing?
Once I'm done, I'm going to try to get an agent.
Okay.
And try to go traditional.
All right. Well, this is for all the agents out there that might be watching this. There is an unclaimed excellent writer and book out there at this moment. So his name is Harold Hall. You can see it right down there at the bottom of the screen. Now, I do want to talk about the story, but like I said, whatever spoilers you don't want to give away or anything, this is your book. So I respect that. I just want to say the storyline in this, it is like what did you say? Like a thriller, but you had a different way of putting it.
It's a thriller for people who don't like traditional thrillers.
That's right. So that was perfect for me because I think I came into this going, a thriller? I don't really like thrillers, but I love this book. I love this book. There is all the right amount of darkness and horror in it. With having a very complicated character development. I mean, I really did not want to love the main character, the protagonist. Really did not want to love her. By the end of it, though, I really have so much respect for her and love, and it was a really good experience of empathy. I think where I kind of like we want to point the finger and be like, oh, that person's terrible because they're like this. By the end of it, I'm like, oh, I see everything, like why she is and like human kindness and all sorts of things wrapped up in this story. So I want you to talk about this and as much as you want to say.
I think I'm safe to talk about probably like the first third of the book just because I think that's probably what would be in a blurb. So, so I the way I look at it is I write psychological suspense, psychological thriller, I guess. It's not, I would say it's more in line of like Thomas Harris rather than like Tom Clancy. The book is about conspiracies to some degree. It's, I would say the vibe of it might be a little bit like X-Files without the aliens. And essentially it kind of revolves around this government agency that is a complete shadow agency. And it's called the CVE, which stands for Compliance, Verification, and Erasure. And so what they do is they're like a KGB. They go around and they will make you disappear. If you are deemed a threat to America, they will make you go poof.
Yeah.
And the main character, Maeve, she's kind of she's someone who's made a lot of mistakes in the past, but she's constantly trying to do the right thing. She just doesn't always kind of know how to go about that, I guess. And she has a 13-year-old son, Tyler, who, for reasons that at first are not clear, he is taken by the CVE. And when she asks about, like, hey, where's my kid? They tell her that he's going into essentially witness protection and that he's in a safe house. But she ends up finding out that that is not the case, that he is somewhere else, and she'll likely never see him ever again. And so the rest of the book is very much kind of her quest to find and save her son from being stuck in this place where the CVE bring all the people that they deem a threat to the government.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's really scary about your book is it's very realistic. So as I was reading it, I was kind of going, is this not a real place? I mean, does the government actually have someplace like this? So what was some of the research that you did? I know you did a lot of on-site research that was super interesting, but some of the other stuff as well.
Yeah, and the on-site research I can't really get into too much because I think that we would be getting into spoiler territory on that one.
Exactly.
Trying to think of what research I can talk about without it being a spoiler. Some part of the story takes place in Washington, D.C. And so that's one thing that I had to research, because I've never been to DC. So and the locations, there's a chapter that takes place in Canada. I've been to Canada, but not specifically to the place in the book.
Yeah.
There's a place in Paris that setting, and I had to research that. There, and there's not a lot of globe hopping, but specifically at the beginning of the book, there's a little bit of movement for the characters, so I had to research that. But
yeah. What are some of because your research is so good. I felt like I was in these places, and like Washington D.C., I was in, like I did live there. The Paris one, no, or well, it wasn't Paris, but France, right? I can't remember the other place, but there was some places I was familiar with, and you nailed it. And I think that was one of our earlier conversations is you've never been there. What are some of the ways that you familiarize yourself so well with it?
Google. I wish there was more to it, but just
now
did some research online.
Sponsor. No, I'm kidding. That'd be great if Google sponsored us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job with that, the accuracy of it. Was that something from your experiences before that became like really important to you, the research part of it, to create the reality as grounded as possible?
Well, we've talked about this before. I hate research. I'm not a researcher. I mean, I'll take an hour and I'll do a deep dive into something, but really what I care about is the characters, the story, and I'm more focused on the emotional element of trying to make you care and feel something than I am about the technical details.
Yeah.
I try to make it for me, the important thing about research is just believability. I want to do enough and have enough factual information that it's believable, but I'm not going to go on a 2-page rant about, something.
Well, and I think that's one reason why it's so effective, because it's something I see a lot in work is when people bog down with the details. When you and I know there's probably somebody out there watching this right now going, no, I love the details. Yeah. But this is one of my pet peeves when I start a story. It's like, Robert stood there with his, laser 5000 P29 with the blah, blah, blah hand grips and the da, 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 and the like super sensitive hair sight, blah, 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 and looked across at the tanker, blah, 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 947G. And then by then I have closed the whole story. So anybody sending me a submission for Space and Time, don't put that in the first paragraph because I will close that story. It's too much detail. Some detail's good.
Right. Absolutely. I'm being one of those writers though, where if people read my stuff, they're going to send me like emails, or they'll message me on social media and be like, that's not factually correct. And then I'm going to be like, promptly delete.
That's why it's fiction.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other things that you've written in the past, unless you don't want to talk about them? We don't need any true confessions. Tell us about your XXX career. I made that up. That is not a thing that Harold, as far as I know, has done. But what are some of the other things you've worked on? And from here, do you think you see yourself continuing in thriller, or where do you think you'll go?
Thriller in the loosest sense. So I think I probably will continue in kind of the suspense, psychological thriller kind of territory. As far as for short stories, I kind of lean more towards horror. So, but before, I guess like my first 2 projects, I would say you could classify as urban fantasy. And the first book was terrible. And then the second one I liked, but nobody else liked. So I decided, I'm like, okay, this is obviously not my forte. So I wrote a middle grade novel that I kind of wrote for my son. And that's kind of a science fiction story. And I really like that one, but I don't want to be a middle grade writer. So I just was like, nope. So put it in a drawer, and then moved on to this project, which is closer to what I want to write. So
I will one day get my hands on that middle grade book. I'm just
I'll send it to
saying,
you.
it is a life goal now. Yeah, sorry. Now I'm obsessed about that middle grade book, which I will not ask you about unless you want to talk about it. I do think I'm going to say your genre is thrillers. I enjoy that you, or I think it's important that you do the, thrillers nobody would like, because that is 100% true. Why do you think that is? Like, do you read a lot of thrillers, or?
I do read a fair amount of thrillers, but I definitely have a certain type of thrillers. Like, um, I'm not really into like espionage thrillers or anything like that. That's not really. Now, I'm really excited for the new Mission Impossible movie. So I mean, I'll cop to that. But as far as reading, that's not really my thing. But stuff like, like I mentioned Thomas Harris before, Red Dragon, stuff like that. Harlan Coben, I liked a lot of his books. So right now I'm reading a psychological thriller that I love it right now. It's on my bookshelf behind me, and that would be You, which is
Oh,
the Netflix show. I have not watched the Netflix show, but I started reading that book, and it's fantastic. And that's kind of, I like thrillers that are more psychological and in your head and stuff.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and because of you and this experience we've had together, I will say I'm more open to thrillers. So I'm actually going to grab a copy of You and read it, because this has been such an enjoyable experience. I guess not everybody has to die a gruesome supernatural death in the first chapter for me to be interested in their book. I'll say now.
I mean, I like it when people die of supernatural things in the first chapter too, but
yeah. But there's other things that we can write about.
For sure.
Well, as far as short stories, this is a leading question. You said that you're talking about doing a few short stories. I happen to know a magazine called Space and Time that would gladly take one of those short stories at that time. So, let me know when that happens. And also, what do you think you would write about? Okay. No pressure.
I don't know what I'd write about. But I definitely.
Okay, here's my list then.
Right. After I'm done the book, I foresee a period of time where I'm not necessarily going to want to jump right into another novel, because I'm kind of slow, and so I need a little. So I need a little bit of a break. So I definitely want to write a couple of short stories in between. I just don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know what they are. I'm open to themes. If anyone has a theme, I would be open to submitting a story to somewhere. But
yeah. All right. I will email you. Everybody, you know where to find Harold. We can probably find him on. Where are you? Like, do you have a Facebook? I mean, I know you're on Facebook, right? But I actually don't know you except for this mentorship program. So
yeah, I do have a Facebook, but it's not really professional. It's more for family and high school friends.
Yeah.
And then I have Twitter at Harold_Hull. I don't tweet a lot. Mostly, I do like Twitter. Well, I like it less now, but generally I like it, and I follow a bunch of writers, but I don't really tweet much. And then I am also on Instagram, and that's just harold.steve.hull.
Okay.
I don't really post much on social media, but I'm there. So I exist there. I exist on social media. I just, I'm just kind of quiet. So
yeah,
I'm a lurker.
Lurking is good. That's how you get all these characters built up so much, because you just sit there and you watch everybody. Who was in Underside? Who is your favorite character to work with, do you think? And how much are they like you? Like, what parts of yourself went into that character?
Well, Maeve is probably my favorite character. And she's, I don't think she's really much like me at all.
I would say, from what I know of you, I would say no, but I do like her.
Yeah. The one thing I think I put into her story is um, kind of I don't know, I was grappling with a lot of fear about parenthood, I guess, and just kind of my own fears that I had for my son, and kind of the way that she views parenting, and the kind of the lens that she goes to is kind of that's how I connected with Maeve.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really important thread for me for the story, was just that her kind of her unrelenting um, I don't know, her focus on she will do whatever it takes to help her child, and
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of my in with her as a character.
Yeah. I think one of the things I loved about her, she has that internal struggle, which I
Mm,
won't get too far into with the details, but that really develops her as a person. Where in the beginning, like I said, I kind of had this outside view of, oh, she's that person, and I don't like her.
yeah,
But then after getting to know her from the inside and the things that she's going through, the things that she has gone through, and why she's turned into this person that she is, but then seeing her develop out of that has been amazing. And I feel like I actually know her somewhere, which I guess is the ultimate goal of a story. So when I do finish reading this, um, because you're finishing writing it right now, why are you not writing it right now? What are we doing on the show? I need the next chapter. I'm kidding, but not kidding. But no, after reading this, I know I'm going to have that pang of I've lost a friend as soon as this is over. And I know you have said you are not planning right now to write a sequel or anything. And I don't obviously know how the story ends, so I don't know if it'll be set up for that. But do you think you will ever revisit these characters again at some point?
um, I have a story for side character. There's a side character that I do have a story for, but it would be kind of on a
Mm-hmm.
shorter length. But I don't have any plans for a sequel, as you said. I'm pretty happy with the way that the book ends, and I think I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think
Yeah.
if I think probably best to just leave it alone. I don't really have a second idea.
Mm-hmm.
If I 8 years from now, if an idea just popped into my head, maybe, but as of right now, I wouldn't have any plans.
Okay. Well, there's nothing wrong with leaving a character in that sense of loss, like, oh, I've lost a friend,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Because I love the people that you've built in this book, all of them, which, like I said at the beginning, it was kind of like, ugh, Maeve, she's like this person. I don't like her at all.
She's
Um,
messy.
yeah, she's a very messy character. Do you think that was part of your, especially, and this may be a leading question, or maybe you don't want to talk about this, but working with the homeless for a decade, um, you wind up meeting messy people. I mean, we're all messy to some point. Do you feel like Maeve was part of that, the reason why you had so much empathy built into her character?
I would, yeah, actually, I think that's, now that you say that, that probably is true. That never occurred to me, but yeah, you're probably onto something. I do have kind of a soft spot in my heart for messy people. um, and so I don't know, people who are perfect, like absolutely perfect. I don't know,
Those
get
are
a
actually
little
serial killers. That's my opinion.
little suspicious.
Yeah,
Uh,
something wrong with
so
those guys.
yeah, and to kind of the homeless shelter part of it, I worked there for a decade, and I met a lot of people with um, varying. Some of them were just kind of down on their luck, but there were a number that had significant issues. And but the thing that I found was, you know, outside of whatever battles they were going through, they were wonderful people who you could have good conversations with and friendships, and they just were battling things that I wasn't. And so I definitely I do have a level of empathy for people in general, but probably working at the shelter probably did help that a little bit. But
yeah, I think honestly that's one reason why you have such depth in your characters, because you have to see depth in people, and a lot of times, and I'm saying this from somebody who was in that experience as well. That's when you're real, when you've stripped away all the pretenses and everything, and so you've got to kind of dwell in that situation, that people watching on a very incredible and raw level. So I think that has really lent itself to your writing.
thank you.
Let's go back to the mentorship program a little bit. Having been, I would say, an incredibly successful mentee, which, why do we even say mentee? That's like the weirdest word, but mentee.
It kind of sounds a little bit like manatee.
Man,
but
I always think of Mentos and Coke. Like,
I just always think of myself with like tusks, like.
So this is our Greg. JG Faraday. Why do we call it mentee mentor? That's so awkward. Surely we can think of a better name at some point, but that's my 2 cents. What advice, as a successful manatee mentee, would you give to other mentees?
Well, I would say sign up as soon as you can. Be patient. If you don't get in the first time, don't give up. You might not get in that first round. And then when you go into the mentorship, go in open. Go in with the mindset that you don't know everything, that you're gonna have criticism, and it's okay. And just listen. And there's gonna be, your mentor hopefully will be supportive, which is also another great thing about the program. And you're going to meet someone that, you're going to meet a writer that's going to be able to get to know you, support you, offer you advice on your work. And that's not, you don't get that every day. You can do a workshop and you can have other writers, but through this program, you're getting writers that work in the horror genre, and their advice is gonna help you if you're open to it.
Awesome. I think that is incredibly good advice. So I hope everybody will walk, not run, but walk too, because you want to be safe. We're horror writers. We know all about what happens when you run. And go sign up for it, either as a mentee or a mentor. We always need mentors. There's never enough mentors. So I'm going to just urge anybody watching this, if you feel like you have that capability and time to give to somebody else, we definitely need you. And JG Faraday is going to have a little message at the end of this show to talk about how you can sign up either as a mentee or a mentor, and explain a little bit about how the program actually works. I'm a twice-time mentee. I had Brian Theowara was my first mentor, and he literally was the pivotal point of my career with his advice. So, and then the second time was Tim Wagner, also really, really good. And that's why I want to give back to the mentor program, because it's invaluable for us. And the HWA is the place to go to get that. So, sorry, I have people living with me. Slamming doors. Let's just a little bit before we close out. I just want to hear a little bit more about you, and where can we find you? Where can we find you going forward? You said you're going to be looking for an agent soon. That's important.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, Twitter, Instagram, I am there. If anyone wants to follow me, I don't know why anyone would.
I'm going to follow you as soon as this is done.
I'm there. And then as far as going forward, my goal is just to finish this book, and then start trying to get an agent, try to get it out there into the world, and then eventually just move on to the next book. No matter what happens, it's whether good or bad with this one, I'm going to move on to the next one because, it's what I do, and hopefully I'll have luck somewhere along the line.
Oh, I think you will. I mean, you're making your own luck, Harold, because you've worked hard, you've had the right attitude, you've invested your time. I think anybody who's in writing knows this is not a quick, definitely not a get rich scheme. I don't know how anybody ever thinks that. If you want to get rich at this, run. Do run, don't walk. Get away from this as much as possible. But it's very fulfilling and rewarding if you're that person that's going to do it anyways. So I just think, probably 5 years from now, we're going to be doing another interview, and I'm going to be talking about like all the awards you've won, and all your huge successes. Thank you for giving me this time, and asking you other things, including probably that you're mentoring by that point.
We'll have to do another interview. We'll do that in 5 years. So
yeah. Okay, the date has
that.
been set, people. Well, I predict awesome things for you, Harold. I just know that this also, anybody, if you see Harold Hall, Underside, grab that book because it is an excellent book. I know firsthand, as somebody who didn't like thrillers, I have been converted, but only by Harold. I think I like Harold's thrillers. I can't say enough good things about this book. It's damn good. Very exciting. And I don't know the ending of it yet, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
And you will.
There's no daggers here. That wasn't like I will find out, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to close out with a little message from, as I said, J.G. Faraday, talking about the mentorship program and how you can be involved. Thank you, everybody. See you next Saturday.
Thank you.
And here is the part of the show where I realized I forgot to ask J.G. Faraday if he wanted to do a video. I think we talked about it a while ago, and he said, yes, he would love to do a video statement, but I forgot to coordinate with him for this until I actually heard myself say this in the video, and this is the night before I'm scheduling this. So in lieu of actually hearing from J.G. Faraday, I will tell you how to get into the mentorship program, how to get in touch with it. You can go to horror.org, HWA-mentors, up here, and you'll be brought to this page, which is a lovely letter from J.G. Faraday about the mentorship program. If you go to here, this takes you to a pretty easy enrollment form where you can answer questions, make sure we get the right kind of mentor to you, attached to you. And if you have any questions, simply go to mentor@horror.org right here. And you'll be getting in touch with J.G. Faraday himself, and he can answer all your questions. So sorry, I don't have an actual video from J.G. Faraday. I know he's a lot more fun than I am at speaking. But for now, this is what I have.